Hey guys, welcome to this lesson on Corcovado. This is part 2 of our 3-part lesson series on this piece. The first part I played an arrangement which we made based on the Getz recording which he made with João Gilberto, Astrud Gilberto and Tom Jobim himself on the piano. And in part 2 we're going to be looking at the chords and we're going to be learning how to play exactly the same fingerings, the same voicings as he does in that recording. And in part 3 we're going to be kind of putting it together and turning it into an arrangement. So the first part really is to kind of get to know the chords, get to know the harmony. If you're looking for the tabs, for the chord grids, for backing tracks, all of that is available on our Patreon page, which is patreon.com/allguitar. And if this is your first time here, please consider subscribing to our channel and leave us a thumbs up. But apart from that, let's get started. So the best way to approach a piece like this is to first look at the form, and then once we understand the form, is to look at the bass notes, the bass movement, to trace the bass steps, and that is the root notes of the chords. And then in that way we can understand the harmonic pattern without getting bogged down with chord shapes. So I like to see this piece in two halves. So the first half has 16 bars, and the second section has 18 bars. So let's have a look at the root notes of the chords in the first section. So it's important that you play the root notes where they are written on the tab, because later on we're going to add the chords to these notes. And as you can see, we've included the chords above the tab notes just in case you've already played through the song, but don't worry for now, we'll be covering that in a minute. So line 1 we have 2 bars of A and 2 bars of G sharp. Then line 2, we have a bar of G, a bar of C, and 2 bars of F. Line 3, we have a bar of F, a bar of B flat, a bar of V, and a bar of A. And on the final line, we have 2 bars of A, bar of D, and a bar of G. Let's see if we can play that with a backing track. We're going to play 2 notes per bar. So if it's a bar of A, we're going to play 2 A's on the 6th string. So hopefully that wasn't too hard for you to do. And the next thing for us to do is to build the chords on top of that. And we're going to be using fairly basic, fairly standard bossa nova chords. So in the first line, when we have 2 bars of A and then 2 bars of G sharp, we're going to use this an A minor 6 chord. So the root's on the 6th string, that's the A that we played, and the other fingers on strings 4, 3, and 2. And then when we go to the G sharp, the shape is very similar. What we do is we just keep the fingers on the same strings, but we run all fingers apart from finger 4. We push them back a fret. And it's a really nice voicing. And this chord is called G sharp diminished, flat 13. Okay, so 2 bars of A minor 6, 2 bars of G sharp diminished, flat 13. And then we have a bar of G minor 7. Again, we're using the same strings. And then when we go to C, we're going to play the C. We're now going to play the middle strings. So it's a C9, actually, C9 chord, going into F, F major 7. And then, if you remember on line 2, we had a bar of G, G minor 7, a bar of C9, and then 2 bars of F. The first bar we're going to play F major 7th, the second bar we play F major 6th, or F6. Then going into the third line, we have a bar of F again, but this time we're going to play F minor 6. Really nice voicing. And then a bar of B flat, which is B flat 9. I'm going to finger it like this. And then we have a bar of E, and we're going to play E minor 7th. A bar of A, which is A7 flat 13. And then on the last line we have 2 bars of A, back to A minor 6 for 2 bars. And then we're going to play D minor 9. And on that final bar, when we have a bar of G, we're going to split that bar into 2 chords. So it's going to be G9 sus. And then with this little bar here, this then turns this chord into a G7 sus flat 9. Let's play over the backing track again, using these chords now instead of the bass. And we're going to pluck twice per bar. And in that final bar, when we had 2 chords per bar, when we have that G, the G sus 9 into the G7 sus flat 9, we're going to play 1 of each in like that. So 1 and change. Great, so a quick tip here, if any of the changes are difficult for you to navigate, notice that some chords keep the same fingerings, or at least part of the fingers on the same strings. Like for instance the first 2 chords, then just slightly lift and drag back. Also the 3rd chord, so the G minor 7, keeps the 4th finger and the 3rd finger on the same strings, and what you can do is to drag those back, or at least drag finger 4. That seems to do the trick for me. And the next chord also has finger 4. Now going to the F major 7 from the C9, you have to change everything. So maybe in this case what you can do is just go like this, just practice a few times the change over and over. So now let's take a look at the bass movement in the second part. What we're going to do is we're going to play the first 3 lines, or 12 bars. Those are exactly the same as the first part. The 4th line we have a bar of D, a bar of G, and a bar of E, and that E we're going to play on the 7th fret, and a bar of A. And then the last 2 bars of this section we have a bar of D, a bar of G, and usually if the piece isn't finishing, if we're going to play another chorus, if the piece repeats, which usually does for at least 3 or 4 times, then we go back to the first section. We start with the A again on bar 1. But if you're ending the piece at the very end, instead of going back to A, we end on C, which is quite nice. So the last bar just ends on C. But when we play with the backing track, we're gonna end on the C, just because we're not going to repeat, since we've already played it once. So let's see if we can play with the backing track 2 bass notes per bar. Cool. Now, when we get to put the chords together, the first 11 bars are the same exact chords. The first line is 2 bars of A minor 6 and G sharp diminished flat 13. That's the first line. And the next line we have G minor 7, C9, and F major 7, and F6. That's line 2. Then line 3, again we start with F minor 6, going into B flat 9. Then we play E minor 7, so that's 11 bars. The next bar, this time instead of going to A7 flat 13, we're simply going to go to A minor 7. Then we go to D minor 7th, and then again this bar is split, G9 sus, splitting with G7 sus flat 9. And then we go to E half diminished, or E minor 7 flat 5. Then we're going to play A7 flat 13. And then we play D minor 7 again. Back to the G9 sus, G7 sus flat 9. And this time we end in C major 7. Cool, now let's go over the chords of part 2. Great, I hope you managed to keep up with the pace so far. What we're missing really is just Bossa groove. So let's go over the chords using the right hand pattern, the A1 and A2, the two sections of the piece. That's great, guys. That concludes part 2. In part 3, we're going to be putting the chords and the melody together and turning to a solo guitar arrangement. If you're looking for the tabs, backing tracks, the chord grids, and all of that, that's available on their Patreon. It's patreon.com/altguitar. And yeah, look forward to seeing you in part 3.